Well, hi everyone. Welcome to Thrive Tribe and the Thrive Tribe Table. I'm your host, Megan Scheibner, with my co-host, Dr. Steve Scheibner. And this week, we're going to talk about one of the two areas in parenting that we hear the most, honestly, negative term. People talk about surviving the teen years and surviving toddlers. And we want to talk this week about thriving with toddlers. And the title of this episode is Terrific Toddlers, because believe it or not, they're a thing.
They are a thing, right?
Now, in our house, our youngest child was born when our oldest child was 14. So we actually ended up having toddlers / preschoolers for 18 years. And I'm pretty sure there's a crown in heaven for that, but it has sticky fingerprints on it, right?
Yeah, it does. Right.
Because toddlers, if you aren't ahead of the toddler, if you aren't ahead of toddlers, they're gonna eat your lunch. Now, Steve, strangely enough, you really like the toddler years, don't you?
Yeah, okay. That was surprising to me because I didn't think, before you have kids, you romanticize about what you think having a family is going to be like. And it's like a little bit of Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best,
and then
everything.
Calgon, Take Me Away.
Everything always works out at the end of the episode. Well, it's not really true in reality. I really didn't think I'd be crazy about toddlers. Because they're sticky and messy, but 4-year-olds are just the funniest thing on the planet. They're innocent, they're raw, they say what's on their mind, and they have funny thoughts. I think, I don't know if that's when the sense of humor begins to develop.
Yeah.
But I loved our 3 and 4-year-olds. And a lot of people would say, 3-year-olds, I can't stand them. I really liked our 3-year-olds. I just had a lot of fun with them at that age.
Yeah.
Probably because I'm on their level.
Yeah. Some of the funniest things that we've written down that our kids said, were when they were 3 and 4-year-olds. One of our youngest daughter actually informed us once, hands on hips, that she didn't need a stoop advisor to tell her what to do. And I still use that today.
Right. And the old lady behind us, one of our daughters said her husband had passed away years ago and she was a widow. And she proudly announced to the rest of the family, the younger ones at that age, that she knew exactly why Mrs. Danker, who lived behind us, was a weirdo.
Yes, because her husband was dead.
Right, because her husband was dead.
Yes. But why is it so important that we minister to these young children? Because, often we think of them as an inconvenience or they are a disruption to our plans. But the truth is, toddlers, preschoolers, they're our family ministry.
Right.
And really they're a ministry to everybody in the family. But why do we think that's so important?
Well, if you look at the stats, and the stat's been around for a lot of years, but about 82% of those who come to faith in Christ and have a meaningful walk with Christ, and when I say that, it sticks, right? They do so before the age of 18. So that means one of two things. Either the church in general needs to spend more time and more money and more emphasis on the above 18 group, because only 18% of them make a true conversion to Jesus Christ and live for Jesus Christ. Or, and I think this is what's more succinct and more important, is that they are missing the big picture, which is kids' hearts are moldable, they're malleable, and they're asking those important life questions from birth up to age 18. And all the most formative years are the years from age 3 to 7, right? Beyond age 7, the window begins to close. We get to be about 18, 19, it's almost completely shut, right? So the ages 3 to 7, the toddler years, is a huge time to be planting those seeds of talking about Christ, talking about Jesus, talking about God's love, talking about their sin. All right. I can't emphasize. I'm going to look at the camera right now. Talk to your kids about their sin
and call it what it is.
If you sugarcoat it and you go to them and you say, hey, you know what? Jesus loves you. And don't you want to be a follower of Jesus? And so just trust Jesus, give your heart to Jesus. If you do that, they'll do that. They'll mouth those words, but their heart isn't transformed. They need to know that they're in need of a savior. And the only way they're going to know that is through sin. You go, well, it's kind of heavy for a little kid. No, they already know they're sinners. They've already disobeyed you 5 times today. They've already lied. They've already stolen something. They've already hit somebody that you didn't know about. They already know all that. And you're helping them unload that burden in their heart. So it's that age 3 to 7, hugely important time in the life of your family.
Yeah, and they're like little sponges during that time. It's interesting. Think how much time we spend in ministry, and we've been involved both in church ministry and parachurch ministry doing pre-evangelism.
Right.
So we really need to reset our thinking with our toddlers and young children of this is pre-evangelism.
Right.
And I'm going to be just as intent with that. For years, I worked as a head cook at a children's camp, and the hardest hurdle to get over with the others that were working for me was this: well, they're just kids. What's it matter? Why don't we just throw the food on the table?
Right.
Where the truth is our excellence. We're teaching excellence, the excellence of Christ from the time they're tiny.
You see that mentality played out in the church, because again, I was a pastor of a church. You were my wife, and so we ran a church for a long time. And you saw that 90 to 95% of the church budget is aimed at adults over age 18, right? Then maybe 5 to 8% of the church budget is aimed at kids. And we slapped together a couple things, Vacation Bible School and Awana and some other stuff. But honestly, think about the role of a youth pastor. Most youth pastors either think of themselves as somebody who's leading up to be a senior pastor someday, or we who are members of the church think of them that way. Hey, someday you're going to have your own church. How many times have you said that to your youth pastor? Hey, someday when you get to be a real pastor. Well, wait a minute. I want a real dedicated youth pastor in my church that feels like that's their life calling, right? Think about it this way. Your pediatrician is not going to fleet up to be a real doctor someday,
exactly.
right? You want your pediatrician to stay a pediatrician.
Yeah.
I want my youth pastor to be focused on the youth, because why? I know that 82% of those who come to faith in Christ are going to do so in those formative years before age 18.
Yeah, and we've had the blessing of knowing some men who are dedicated to working with young people, and what a blessing that's been to our kids.
We just lost a dear St. Greg at Hodgson.
Yeah.
He's a perfect guy for that.
So now we're going to talk about toddlers and how do you have terrific toddlers? Because really, toddlers are inconsistent. That's a good word for them, right? You can't count on how a toddler is going to act, behave, respond, and we're the variable in their life. Yep. And so we're going to switch things around a little bit today. And honestly, you're basically going to interview me.
Okay.
Because moms are the ones who, we're in the toddler trenches.
I was going to work. I was deploying with the Navy. I was gone a lot when they were little, and you were the one that were there all day.
Yeah.
And there is a crown in heaven for that. Okay, so question number 1 for you is this. What's the number one way to get terrific toddlers? And I know that's a general open-ended question, but I think I want the first one to be kind of open-ended and let you just kind of talk about what did you do? Because we had pretty good toddlers.
We did.
Yep.
And we enjoyed them. And it's funny, if you Google it, it'll be, here's the arts and crafts you can do and the books you can read and all this for terrific toddlers. But it really comes down to one word: security. If our toddlers feel secure, they're going to thrive. Okay. And when they're going to be terrific toddlers. And when your toddlers are terrific, the whole family thrives. If you have a toddler that's out of control, amazingly, that little 3-year-old can rule the roost. Just yesterday, we left our 18-year-old son in charge of babysitting
the
just
twins.
For an hour. The 4-year-old twins.
4-year-old, his cousins.
Yes, and he called his sister. Their nieces, yeah.
Right.
He called his sister in desperation because one of them had taken her clothes off and said she was scared to get dressed, and he didn't know what to do with this naked toddler. And we laughed about it and said, if an 18-year-old goes to war against a 4-year-old female, who's going to win?
The 4-year-old female.
Yeah, the 4-year-old
Hands
naked
on her hips,
female.
No clothes on. I'm not putting my bathing suit on. I'm not getting into my clothes. She was afraid of everything. I'm afraid of my clothes. I'm afraid of my bathing suit. I'm afraid of that towel. I'm afraid of... And he's like...
Help!
What do I do? Well, good. So what do you do?
Yeah. So we have to be ahead of the toddlers. And there's 3 areas we're really going to focus on. One this week and one next week in Thrive Tribe. We build security with our toddlers in 3 areas: in routines and repetition, in responsibilities, and in relationships. And those 3 areas, when we as the adults and as the older siblings in the family are helping our toddlers to feel secure in those 3 areas, the whole family's going to thrive. Okay. And then you'll be a Thrive Tribe.
Okay, so that's a general big picture of what you do, because I'm really very curious to get, how do you get a 4-year-old female that refuses to get dressed?
Yes, yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's what's eating your lunch. Okay, so next question is going to be this then. So talk to me about toddler routines, I guess, because you mentioned that. I don't know if I want to talk about responsibilities first or routines, but let's deal with routines.
Yeah, we're
first.
we'll talk about routines this week because they really kind of lay the groundwork for everything else. And interestingly, I often give this talk at homeschool conferences or a version of it. When I say routines, immediately parents go, yeah, I need the routines for my kids. But it really starts, moms, with your routine. And often,
so we're talking about adult routines.
We're talking about adult routines because
okay.
honestly, our routines are what are going to set the tempo for our toddlers' routines. And many times we come into parenting, when we have older kids, wanting to be very spontaneous, spur of the moment, fun mom. Today let's forget everything, pack up the car and go. Toddlers don't thrive in spontaneity.
Okay.
And so part of being the mother of a toddler is self-control of ourselves, of saying, it doesn't matter what a spontaneous person I am, for the well-being of this child, we're going to put away the spontaneity for now. Now, right now we have one child at home, right? He's 18.
Right.
And soon, next month, he'll be off to college. We're incredibly spontaneous with him. I mean, I don't think we plan ahead at all as far as, what do you want for dinner tonight? What are we going to go do? We can be very spontaneous.
Well, yeah, but he also, at that age, 18, he's already created his own routines.
He has.
Right?
He has. But we're not.
Come in late, sleep until 1 o'clock.
Yeah, take a nap.
Eat,
then
sleep, take a nap.
Poor Tate.
Eat.
Yeah.
Go out with my girlfriend.
But I don't feel the need to have a routine for him. And he makes his own security and routine. So someday, moms, it comes. You get to be spontaneous again.
Right.
But right now, be the parent.
Okay.
Be the parent. Right. So you can't be spontaneous. So what are some of the routines for moms? Well, moms, think about the things that are going to make your day go more smoothly with a toddler. Mm-hmm. And there's some real practical things. Empty the dishes out of your sink at night. That's such a simple thing, but so many of us miss it, right? We go to bed with a sink full of dirty dishes, and then you wake up with two things: a demanding toddler, and you're already behind because you've got a sink full of dirty dishes. Right. Takes 8 minutes, 10 minutes at night, empty the sink. It's going to help you get going in the morning. The worst mornings for me were when I rolled over in bed. Now, I'm not a morning person, and we might be on record for that.
Sorry, I can't.
I'm not an evening person either, though.
No,
I'm more of a noon.
I'm very good at noon. You're more like a midday person.
I'm a midday person. But the worst mornings were when I would roll over, and I'll be honest, it was our producer here. I would roll over, and his little face would be at the side of my bed, and he would say, "What's for breakfast?" And I would think, I hate you. I'm just being honest. I'm not a morning person. But moms, if we think a little ahead, if you go to bed thinking, here's what we're going to have for breakfast, it's going to start your day better. Just simple routines we're putting in place because we can't be spontaneous with toddlers.
I don't think I ever heard you actually say that, but I can hear it seething out your ears. I hate you.
Mornings should be just outlawed, all right? One other area I want to talk about with moms.
Yes.
Your nighttime routine sets the tempo for the next morning. So I know how tempting it is. Now, for me, I didn't have Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, all those things tempting me so much at night. But when the kids went to bed, I would get wrapped up in an organizational project or reading a book. I love to read, and I would stay up late reading the book. And in the morning, I wasn't prepared to mother a toddler because it takes all the energy you have. I mean, toddlers can go nonstop. And I don't care if you're 25, 26-year-old, you can't keep up with the energy of a toddler if you get to bed at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. It just doesn't work. So moms, your routines, they come first. Right. So think about the routines that you have. Are you setting yourself up for success? Or are you setting yourself up for failure?
Yeah, years ago, I watched a video, and I can't remember the name of this guy, but it was maybe some of you in the comments remember this video. It was an NFL player, and he tried to do his workout by keeping up with his 4-year-old and doing everything his 4-year-old did. And he said it was just absolutely exhausting.
Yeah, and at the end of the night, the 4-year-old was still getting out of bed, and he wasn't.
You just can't do it. Okay, so all right, so those are routines for moms. So let's talk about toddler routines. Okay.
There are some really important kind of placeholders in a toddler's day that help them to be secure. So I would encourage moms, have a specific time you wake up. Now, it's going to be helpful if you wake up before your toddler, okay? Set your alarm. Again, my child's 18. I can sleep in, right? But toddlers, sort of. I have a dog.
At least till 1 in the afternoon, yeah.
Toddler season is not the time to do that. So toddlers, if you have a wake-up time, if you have a routine for their morning, for our kids, they got up, even the toddlers, they made their bed. What's that look like? We'll talk about it more in toddler responsibilities, but they pulled their covers up. They got dressed. We had breakfast. We had a story time. Now, every family's routine is going to look a little differently, but toddlers kind of hang their security on, I know what I'm going to do next. Like, we always read a book after breakfast. We always do our chores after we read.
Right.
We always have a nap time. And then, surprisingly, and studies have found this, many studies that I read, the kids who have, the little ones, toddlers and preschoolers who have that set routine, then when they have to have an off day, they get right back into their set routine.
Right.
But kids who every day is kind of spontaneous, they're always a little insecure. So when you have an off day, say you have to spend the day at the doctor, or somebody, there's an accident, or we're heading out on vacation, you're going to get the most disruptive behavior and attitudes from kids who never have a routine.
Okay.
Where you would think it was opposite, like, well, I'm messing up their routine, they're going to be so upset. No, their little bodies and their little minds know we're going to get right back into that routine.
Okay. So it builds the security, the routine in their life. Now, I know this isn't on the agenda for today, but I have a question I want to ask you. Because a couple of times, not often, but a couple of times, our kids, and I actually observed this dynamic in a lot of other families, their kids got into a routine, and then they became so attached to the routine that they would put their hands on their hips and they demand, they say, Mommy, you're not doing it right. We do this at this time. We do this next. When you can't. Can you become addicted to the routine?
You can, and I think I wrote it down as a danger. Are there dangers with routine? For some kids, there's no dangers. The routine is exactly what they need for security. But moms, you have to evaluate your children, because there are children who become addicted to routine, which sounds so strange, but it's another manipulative control thing. Mommy, you have to do this. You always do this. Yeah. And so the wise man sees the danger ahead. That's right out of Proverbs. The wise mom says this is a child that has propensity to demand routine.
Right.
Routine isn't something we demand. Routine is a tool we use to help our children be secure. And so for those children who demand routine, you have to mix it up now and then. Because what you're teaching them is very important. You're teaching them trust mommy. Trust mommy. Things can change, but you're still secure.
Oh, that's key. You're actually teaching the character quality of trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay. But talk to them about it. I know that we always read books after breakfast, but today we're going to do something different. You must trust mommy.
Okay. So now when you talk about a routine for a toddler, are we talking about, there's some of our listeners are going to go, well, I'm going to do a minute by minute check off this, check like NASA would do. And there's others that for them, a routine is more kind of a nebulous prayer. That,
I just feel
I just feel like we've been scheduled this week, that kind of thing. How is it an hourly thing? Is it twice a day? What's this? What is your schedule?
So really what you just described is the two sides of the pendulum, right? And we want the pendulum to be in the center.
I just feel a schedule.
Okay. So what a routine looks like, if you do a kind of minute by minute, and some of my kids would tell you, we tried that for about a day and a half. I had the most elaborate chart hanging on a refrigerator, color coded. We had time for bathroom breaks, and I thought I was going to put a gun to my head.
We're 3 minutes behind. Go.
Yeah, all you'll do is set yourself up for stress and pressure and failure. And trust me, moms feel like failure's enough, that we don't need to set ourselves up for it. On the other hand, you have to think through it. You can't just kind of hope a routine evolves. Our children don't direct the routine. We direct the routine. We're the adults.
Okay.
So no, it's not hourly, but what it is a predictable routine and structure. So looking at your family, you come up with the predictable routine. So here's some things that go with a predictable routine. When you were in the Navy, there were times that we knew that you were going to be doing, especially when you were an instructor, teaching night flights for a week.
Right.
So our routine changed that week. The children got up earlier, had breakfast with you before you left, because they knew they weren't going to see you at night, or I knew that they weren't going to see you at night. Right. So that's where a routine is kind of set in jello, but it needs to be set.
But there's still a routine.
Right. There are people who dad doesn't get home from work until 7:30 every single night. So for those families, you're going to eat later, you're going to go to bed later, but you've established the routine. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad establishing the routine is what gives the children security. When toddlers and preschools feel secure, you'll see it in their behavior and attitudes. When their unpredictable behavior and attitudes become predictable, the family will thrive.
Right. So don't become a slave then to the routine. The routine has to have some flexibility in it, but there still needs to be some structure and routine in there. Okay, that's excellent advice. Now, I see a couple of your resources here, and I want you to talk about those because you got Rise and Shine here, and all this routine and structure stuff is. So talk to us about that book.
Yeah, we always say, want to know more, go to the store. We're bringing the store to you.
This is where you're going to find in the store.
Yeah, I'm going to look right at the camera for this. So we have two primary resources for mothers, parents of toddlers, and preschoolers. The first is the Toddler Toolbox, and it covers everything you can think of with toddlers and preschoolers, whether it's attitude, chores, discipline, sibling relationships, everything toddler is in the Toddler Toolbox, and it's a DVD. It's myself and my daughter-in-law, Rochelle. She asks me questions because she has toddlers and continues to have them. Very thankful for that. And just a little resource book that goes with it with helpful tips. I said to Steve, I have to have somewhere to put tips.
Well, there's recipes, puzzles, games, websites.
Yeah, scavenger hunt ideas.
Food. Everything that's toddler friendly.
Companies that will replace missing parts, because toddlers are kind of notorious for losing part of an expensive toy.
Right.
That's in the Toddler Toolbox. Rise and Shine Recipes and Routines for Your Morning is more than just the toddlers, but it's pretty focused on toddlers of how do we teach them early discipleship? What early verses do we teach our children? How do we teach them about Jesus? How do we teach them chores? How do we teach them to do them excellently? Again, it's more information about toddlers, and really it's a discipleship focus for moms. How do you keep your attitude where it needs to be as you're living in maybe a schedule and routine that, as a single person you never would have picked, but now you're making a sacrifice for this child and your family. Right. So two really helpful resources. You can get them at characterhealth.store. So toddlers.
Yes.
Security makes the difference. And we talked this week about routine and structure. Next week, we're going to talk about responsibilities and relationships. But really, we want you to thrive with your toddlers. Right. They're funny. Yeah, they're bright. They're sponges. They want to learn. Right. We're the variable.
Right. And it doesn't have to be the terrible twos. It really doesn't.
It really doesn't.
Right. Yeah. You can have fun with your kids, but structure and routine is the key.
Yeah.
Good. Yep. Excellent one. Okay. Now stay tuned because next week we're going to get specific about routines. So we're going to stay on the topic of toddlers, but now we're going to
responsibilities.
Right.
And relationships.
We're going to drill down on this a little bit more. All right.
We are.
This has been Thrive Tribe. And it's your show. So I'm going to say I'm Dr. Steve Scheibner.
And I'm Megan Scheibner. We'll see you next week.
Well, thanks for watching that clip on YouTube. Remember to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our weekly content. See you soon.